only took 25 minutes to figure this thing out. Let's see. So we got that. That app is open. Mic sounds nice. Mic check. Mic check. 1 2 1 2. I think I'm ready to go. Deactivate transmissions. Send out the bat signal. All right, so here we go. Where are we at here? Why is that not updating? There we go. And it takes forever. All right, so I wanted to hop on here real quick. Oh, my thing is off. What's going on, everybody? My name is Gene. Welcome to a Photoshop tutorial. Gonna be changing the name of this channel soon, so I won't say what I usually say, which is welcome to the feeding model, where we focus on capturing models that feed the eyes and nourish the soul. So I'm gonna be changing that in the future, so look out for that. But this tutorial is mainly focused around focus stacking, manually focus stacking. This was requested by one of the viewers, so I decided to get on here and do this. I think it would be a great way for me to kind of get back into the groove of YouTube, since I haven't made a video in such a long time. So so that's what we're gonna be doing. I haven't touched these photos yet, so what I'm gonna do is do a quick basic edit on Lightroom, then I'll bring them over to Photoshop, and from there we'll start to do masking and manually doing the focus stack. I'll show you guys how to do it auto just as a recap, because I do have a video on focus stacking using the auto blend feature, but that's what we'll be doing today. Let me just make sure everything here is intact. Hopefully my audio's coming through. It looks like it is. And then we will get started. Don't know if I need this window open. Not quite sure. I did not know this was going to be this involved, but here we are. All right. Let me just send a quick what's good? What's good, photo chicks? Happy to be here. How's your Monday going so far? Doing well. I'm doing well. It's a slow start for the week, but I am hanging in there. I'm hanging in there. All right. So let's get started. Right now, I have these strawberries. They're not the prettiest strawberries, but they're strawberries nonetheless. I was messing around with them, trying to do some testing on a video that I'm looking to shoot. So um, I have these strawberry shots here. Let me make sure I move this over so that I can see everything. Thank you. Thank you for the audio confirmation. I appreciate that. All right. So the first step in getting this done right, first thing you want to do when you have the intentions of focus stacking is making sure you have images where different areas of the image are going to be in focus. So from the closest point to the closest point from the camera and onward is how you want to set that up. And it all depends on your aperture settings and the lens you're using, of course, because if you have a much wider aperture, then it's gonna be more shallow. So here I'll go through some of the images that I had. Like this first one, the very forward position is in focus, and oh, I'm on the wrong window. And as I cycle through them, you'll see that the focus starts to move towards the rear of the image. Like right now, it's more in the center plane, and then it's going to continue to move towards the back to the rear part where the strawberries are back there. So that's the first thing first, and you want to kind of have it overlapping so that when you start to brush it in, or when you decide to let Photoshop blend it in, you don't have any out of focus areas, because sometimes they can be very obvious if you miss that. So that's the first thing first. And so right now I'm just gonna basically do some adjustments real quick before I throw them into Photoshop. For me, I don't really do too much in Lightroom when it comes to editing images. Like, I keep it very minimal. If you look at any of my images, I don't go like crazy with the colors and the vibrancy of them. Everything is like small adjustments, and then from there I throw it into Photoshop. I do most of my heavy lifting on Photoshop, where I do retouching and everything else, and adding more color to certain things. Like if I have certain foods that look dull in camera, then I'll start to add the colors in there on Photoshop. So for here, I don't really touch too much. I used to do like spot removal on here, but then I learned how to do it on Photoshop, and then I stopped. It's a lot better on Photoshop anyway. So boom. So I'm just gonna come through here and brighten this up a little bit, because it was shot a little bit on the dark side. Usually bring my contrast up. I always bring down my highlights, shadows just about there. Whites up a little. Relax. I'll crank the texture up, not too much. Clarity just a little. Dehaze. I usually play around with the dehaze a lot more if I'm working with glass. For here, I'll just throw it up to 3. A little bit of vibrancy, not so much on saturation. And then I'll just come down here to enable my profile corrections and the operation. Now I use the 100mm macro for this shot, so it doesn't really affect it as much. I find that when I'm using my Sigma lens, I get a lot of vignetting, so that always helps enabling the profile and removing the chromatic aberration. You won't see much of a difference here, but with the Sigma 16 to 35, definitely. And that's pretty much it for me on this side of things. Bump that up just a little bit more. So from here, I'll just copy my settings. And then paste it onto everything else, so everything is on the same page. So once I get all that done, I highlight all the images that I want, scroll up to edit, open as layers in Photoshop, let the computer do its thing. Feel free to ask any questions too if you guys have anything specific you want to chop it up. I think we're lagging. It's like a good 3 seconds. Alright, so now that all the images are open in Photoshop, on the right one, boom, boom, oh shit. So what I normally do is I'll use the image with the most focus towards the front of the image and use that as the main image, I guess, like the background. And then I'll take all the other images and then brush the focus in where they need to be. So from here onward is where I'll start to brush in those masks, right? Normally what you can do is you can have Photoshop do it, and we'll do that now to see how that looks. You go up here to edit, auto blend layers, hit OK, and Photoshop's gonna find the focus in all of the images and then blend them for you and create a new layer. And that's what that looks like, and that's pretty good. That is really good. Sometimes it can be off and you can see like some weird artifact thing going on, but this is really good. So I'll turn that off. And this is basically what we're doing. We're just creating masks and brushing them in. So we'll do that manually. So I'll turn off this new layer that was made for us. Dump that in a folder. One thing you can do too, that can be helpful, is if you go and change the name to all of your layers so that you know what's what. Like for here, you can call this rearmost focus or whatever you want to call it. Pre-rear, pre-rear, center, and you probably won't need all of them, but it helps to know what's what, especially when you get into it. Um, I'll call this center strawberry. First green. These are similar, it's just a little difference in lighting. And these are just about the same. Okay. I'll leave this out for now. Yeah, I like to rename them. Sometimes the issues I run into though, sometimes when I rename them, is when I need to go back to Lightroom to look for something. I lose that file number, like that image 8864. So it's a hit or miss with the namings, like, you know, but it does help. All right. Okay. So when I'm doing all the brushing and the editing in Photoshop, I like to use this tablet, a Wacom tablet. It's a little small one. This is like the entry level one. I've had it for a while. I just never used it as much as I do now. So now I want a better one, but it helps a lot, especially if you're doing a lot of brushing. I think this was like 60, I think this was like 60, 70 when I got it. I'm not sure what it costs now. But they do have bigger ones, better ones that you can mess with. Um, they do wear out, like the tips, but you get like 3, 4 extra tips with it. But I find it very, very much, it's a lot easier to do the brushing and the masking with this versus using your mouse. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn this off just to get an idea of what I'm going to be brushing in. And I'll create a mask for that. So I created a mask for that, just going down here to this little button here, add vector mask. And when you create the mask, it's going to be completely enabled. The layer will still be enabled, so you have to invert that mask, which is Control I or Command Option I for a Mac. And now you can see it kind of disabled the layer, so you just have to brush it back in. Some things you can do, you can reduce the mask density so you can still see it, so you know where you're brushing. Being that I marked it up, so I know that's the first green, and it kind of gives me an idea of where I'm going to be brushing. So I select my brush tool. The nice thing about this tablet too is that you can adjust the brush size and the hardness of the brush without having to go into your settings. So I'm going to adjust the brush size. And press the X button just to invert the brush over here from black to white. You can just hit the X to cycle through that, and then just start brushing. I made that too big. So I'll just start brushing that in. Easy peasy. Then I go to the next layer. Well, that's the same one. I forgot. I had two of those. Okay. The next one from that is a center strawberry. Same thing. Create a layer mask. Control I to invert, and just start brushing it in. Not too much. Too crazy. Too crazy. Alright, here we go. It's really simple. If you go over, you can either hit the undo button, or you can, what do I want to say here? Yeah, you can hit the X to swap the brush, to invert the brush, and keep going. And as you can see how fast I'm doing this, I can imagine it would be annoying doing this with the mouse. Now, you'll notice that there's a little shifting going on between the layers. Sometimes it'll be a bit more profound on the edges, and you'll see that. A couple things you can do is just move the image. A lot of times it's not noticeable, especially when you have like heavily textured foods like the strawberry. You won't really see it from afar. It's just that when you adjust the focus, the distance kind of gets affected from that. It's more so the blur of the image that's adjusting. I'll have to come back to this. I think this is going to be a lot more sharper. And honestly, I always do this. I always do this manually. I don't use the auto blend feature when it comes to this. I've had some times where it just wasn't good enough. I like to just be in control of what I want to be in focus. This is gonna bother me right here. Which one is that? Oh, no. Let's see. Let's come back to that. Okay, where did I put that? Alright. So what I'm doing right now is just disabling the mask so I can see what I'm trying to pull from this here. And I thought, why did I leave it at the center? It must have been because of this thing. So it's just shift, click the mask, and it'll turn it on and off, just so you can get an idea of what you're trying to establish. Let me know if this is making any sense. If you have any questions, just let me know. It's okay if you go over what you need to brush if you plan on brushing over it with the next layer, so don't have to worry about that so much. Let's go back to that. Same thing, create a mask, invert the mask, and brush your stuff can be real tedious. Going over too much. I feel like I don't need that last layer. Yeah, I do. Get the little hairs. That last layer is going to give us the little hairs. The very There we go. There we go. Um, Damn, I don't know. The most I've ever used for focus, I'm almost embarrassed to say, the most I've ever used for focus stacking, I think was like, well, that I'm lying. That wasn't really focus stacking. It was more manipulating to create a certain composition. The most I've used for focus stacking is probably like 6, 8, maybe. It shouldn't be that much, because a lot of times I shoot at an aperture of like 5.6, so I get a lot more in focus than, say, if you would shoot at like 1.8. So it all depends on the aperture that you have set and making sure you catch everything. I think if you use too much, well, for me, if I use too much, I just get confused and start. There's been times I just started over because it just got annoying. But yeah, I don't think you would need that much. Now, if you're like manipulating and doing maybe like a splash shot and you want to tie a bunch of different images together, like for that, I've used at least 20 layers to create one image at one time. So um, turn this off. Okay. So it depends. I say keep it as minimal as possible. Let's see. So this is my first pass, and there's still some things that are like blurred out, like this here, some stuff here. So this is what I normally do. And again, let me get this out of here. I'll just go through the different layers and turn off the mask just to see which one's going to give me what I want. So, for example, for this second one here, I'll turn that off just to kind of refresh me on what's in focus, what's supposed to be in focus for this layer. Okay, so right now I know that this center strawberry layer is what's keeping my little greens here from being in focus. So I'll just, because I'm turning it off just to see, turning the whole layer off. So what I'll do now is just go back with the brush and negative fill that to remove that mask. Why is my brush not highlighting? Turn the layer on. Alright. Just like that. You see that shift? A lot of times you can get away with that, like in this case. Like if I had a plate, a bowl, a cup, or something in there, I think you would notice it a lot more. Still gotta remove some from here. There we go. Good. So let's work on, I think it was this one here. Oh man, we might lose that one. We'll fix that with the next one. Good, good, good. All right. This one right here, though, I'll have to see if I have something for that. Yes, I do. All right, so this first screen is going to give me this one little green here. So I'll bring that back in the mix. Create a mask and invert. And then just use this one. Made that too big. I didn't get all of it, but I got some of it. Damn. What's missing here? It's so weird. Huh. It's crazy. All right, so for this one, okay, done. Let me put this on top just in case. I leave it feathered a little bit. Am I still on this thing? Yeah, so I leave it I leave it feathered. Let me see where I'm at right now. I'm at 28% hardness. I definitely wouldn't have it like maxed out on the edge hardness just because. Um, so 28%, which isn't too crazy. So I'm just going in, seeing what needs to be adjusted. Who's gonna give me this one? Yo, it's hard. This is my first live, and the screen keeps changing, so it's hard to tell if I'm still on or not. But thank you. Oh, all right. So we off to the next one. Which one's that? There we go. A lot of shifting. So I'm just going to do a little bit more. These screens are giving me a run. All right. And then the last one. Oops. just going back to see if I had anything for this. Strawberry's getting a little funky. Alright, so let's zoom out. This is where I'm at so far. Let me compare it with Photoshop. I'm just going to group these layers real quick. And this is Photoshop's version. Okay. Okay, so that's my version. And this is Photoshop's version. So you can see there's still a little bit more work to be done. Like up here. What else? Over here, I'd have to go back and see what I missed there. A little bit up here in the front. I'm not sure what they did there. Yeah, when Photoshop did it, they basically just chopped something here in the front. See, that's the thing, when you use the auto blend, you know, you kind of, the reason why I don't use auto blend, it's hard for me to troubleshoot and figure out what's what, because their masks be so scattered. I just find it's easier when I'm doing it manually, and if I need to troubleshoot something, I know what I did to get there. See, like here, I'm not sure what they did here, but that's mine and that's theirs. They might have just, I don't know. It's very small, a very small detail, but a detail nonetheless. What else? Let's see what else they did. Oops. So there's mine, it's Photoshop's, mine, Photoshop. So I still got some blur here. That's mine, Photoshop, some stuff here to work out. And here, that's a big one. And a little crevices in here, so that would be this one. That would be this one. So if I disable the mask, it's telling me that I get my focus back in here, so that tells me that I might have overbrushed this. So let me remove this area. Nope. Take this out. These little tiny spots, which again you probably won't notice it much when you zoom out. It all depends on how much time you want to put into it. Yeah, like I don't think you would notice that from afar, what I just did there, but you know. think I'll. If that's gonna bother me. Okay. Should I keep going? I think we get it. We get the we get the gist of how this works. Let me know if you have any questions. If there's anything you want to see me do as far as retouching and editing this photo. I'd probably keep going until I got this portion here a little bit more clear. But other than that, I think the rest of it is pretty good. Yeah, that too. Who's gonna give me that? So once I got this all in focus, I'd probably just go around with a fresh layer and remove like blemishes and dust and weird little things that I don't want in the image. Which in this case, oh, this is a bad story to begin with, but maybe like this tip. I'd probably color this tip in. Chop it off completely. Not a problem. Not a problem at all. I think that, yeah, don't let masking intimidate you. It's the beauty of masking is that you could always go back on it. Versus like if you had to cut an image out. So say I wanted to. Say I wanted to cut this out. Kind of lose that once it's done, but with masking, if you mask that selection out versus deleting everything around it, you could always bring it back. You could always grab your brush and bring it back. Bring something back that you needed. So yes, it's a much more useful and forgiving than the cutting tool. I use it a lot, especially when I'm doing stuff like adding color. We'll use green. So say if I wanted to make those greens a little bit more green. This is one of the ways to do it. You can actually just do color balance to hue saturation, but if you just wanted to touch that up, you can just add a mask, invert it, and then just go around and brushing in the greens. So there's so many, I'm being messy, there's so many different ways to use masking, so I would highly encourage you to just keep practicing with it, because you can add it to pretty much everything. If you wanted to get a curve in there, it already comes with the mask, so once you make your adjustments, you can invert that mask and then specify where you want that adjustment to be applied to. So yeah, so I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. I hope you guys found this helpful. I hope it made sense. I know I kind of got like in my bag and just was just editing away and not saying much, but yeah, hopefully you found this helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to ask while I'm here, or you can drop it in the comment section below and I'll try my best to answer them. If there's anything you want to know now, as far as anything that I can possibly help with, I don't know everything, but I can help with some things. So if there's any specific questions you have regarding some of the tools or filters, feel free to ask and I'll try my best to help out. But yeah, this is manually brushing in your focus versus using the auto blend feature. And again, the auto blend feature is up here in the edit tab, down here just below auto align. If you do want to use the auto blend feature though, you can align the photo first and then blend it. But yeah, it's there if you don't want to spend the time doing all the brushing. Thank you. You have a wonderful day and a wonderful week too. So I'll wrap it up here and I'll try to do more of these. This was cool. This was fun. Trying to get back to YouTube, so I guess peace, y'all. Have a blessed day.